Welcome to another episode of the Leap Takers podcast, the podcast for the curious, where I'm interviewing daring European entrepreneurs, investors, and shapers from a wide range of fascinating areas. So this can range from emerging technologies like crypto and AI to consumer goods, travel, gaming, or even food, as in the case of today's guest. So who am I talking about? My guest today is Andri Silberschmidt. He is a 25-year-old, I would call him a rising star here in Switzerland. He is a food entrepreneur, equity investor, and politician. So here comes his bio. At the age of 15, he began his banking education and is now responsible at Swisscanto Invest for the management of all quantitative equity funds in developing countries. Furthermore, in the summer of 2017, Andri and some of his friends founded Kaisin, a Poké Bowl restaurant and catering chain. Andri has also been politically active since 2011 and is currently running for national parliament in Switzerland. Before we get started, I'd like to kick this episode off, as always, with a quote that I particularly like and came across. So here we go. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. This is a quote from Leonardo da Vinci. I think it also fits well to today's guest. I hope he agrees. So having said that, please enjoy this conversation with Andri Silberschmidt. Hello, Andri. Welcome to the Leap Takers podcast. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for the invitation, Remo.
So, having read your bio, I think you already did quite a lot in your career so far. But could you still introduce yourself to the audience in your own words?
So, to keep it short, I would say I'm a politician selling Poké Bowls and managing an equity fund. So, this summarizes like the three main parts I'm acting at the moment. I'm member of the municipal parliament of the City of Zurich and president of a youth party in Switzerland. Beside that, I am running a startup, like a food chain with 4 stores at the moment, but with some plans to expand. And I'm a banker. So I did an apprenticeship 10 years ago, studied a bachelor's and master's degree in finance, beside working at least 80%. And now after 10 years in banking, I will end my banking career by end of this year.
Yeah, that's already quite a lot of achievements in your rather young career. It seems like you knew exactly where you wanted to go from the beginning. Was that the case, or were you already interested as a kid in entrepreneurship, or how did this develop?
No, I think many things just went by coincidence. So I quit high school with 15 and started an apprenticeship. I think this was like a key moment in my life because I was not happy to go to school on a daily basis, so I thought I start working really early. And in Switzerland, the system works quite well. And being an apprentice, I was able to have a speech at the national holiday with 17. And after this speech, I got interested in politics. So I signed up in the party where I'm president now, and realized that there is no local chapter in my hometown. So I founded this local chapter with 18 years and like 7 years ago. So this is where my political career started. And for the startup as well, it was more coincidence. I was on vacation with friends 3.5 years ago, and we had some Poké Bowls in the restaurant, and then we thought, let's bring it to Zurich. So there was not an exact plan, but I think when your nature is to make things happen, to move things forward, this coincidence can happen more than for other people.
Yeah, I think that's quite funny about the about the Poké Bowls, because I think there's so many opportunities still in Switzerland,
yes,
especially for food, because
definitely.
I think it's coming more now, but there's just so many types of food that we don't have here.
And it's so it's really cliche that the banker starts a restaurant. I think there are many bankers. They think it's gonna be so easy to run a restaurant. I will open up a new pizza or whatever, and then after a year they go bankrupt. So I'm really happy that I'm not part of this cliche, that we are successful now for 2.5 years. And I think it's not just the food we offer, it's also the concept we have, because we only do shop in shop, we only do lunch. So we really focus on the profitable part of the day for this kind of food we serve. And it's not a classic approach to get 100K, rent a restaurant or invest in a new restaurant and then start. And yeah, so I think it's cool that this the startup is still in success. Yeah.
And maybe let's go back to the beginning. Was this clear for you that you would like to start the business this way, or was this a learning that you had to make, that this is the best way of operating the business?
I mean, it was more that we didn't have any money to start. So we knew the only way to get money is to get revenue. Yeah. So we had to offer something that people like and are interested in. So, and I think this was key. Like until now, we have no money from third persons. It's only the whole growth is financed by our organic sales. So I think this was key to our success. We start now after 2.5 years to write the business plan. And the last 2.5 years, we didn't have any business plan or case at all. So we had to adopt from month to month our learnings to get a stable concept. And I think this was key from the beginning, that we would not be there where we are when we had more money to start with. So this was important.
Also, how did this play out in the beginning? Because I think it must be quite hard to, you want to start a restaurant, or a chain, and where do you even start? How did you approach this? Did you talk to people that taught you how to do it? Or did you do a lot of research, read any books? Or how did you approach this? It seems quite intimidating to me.
Yeah, the start was just that I wrote down this idea in my reminder app, like open up a Poké Bowl store in Zurich. And after it popped up 10 times, I thought, okay, now either I try to do it or I delete this reminder. I don't like having a reminder on a daily basis, and I have no progress there. So I wrote to a guy who is owning several restaurants in the City of Zurich. I knew him through politics, and I just asked him to have a lunch and pitched my idea. And then he said, Asian fusion kitchen is not my thing, so I will not implement it. I mean, to be honest, first I thought I give him the idea, he will implement it. I get like 10% of the revenue or something like that. So really like the banker approach. And then he said, it's not the concept that I will follow, but you can try it. You can give it a try. And I can give you a location for 4 months for free. And you can try out your idea. And in the end, like you can deduct all the expenditures from your revenues. And if there's something left, you can keep it and go on. So I thought, okay, let's give it a try. But the friends with whom I went on vacation, they were all bankers. So I knew that we don't succeed with this team. So I asked 2 other friends. One is a cook, a chief, and the other one is really good in marketing. So this was the team from the beginning until now. And the one who really knows about running a restaurant is now our CEO. So it's quite good to have a team with different skills.
Yeah, I think there was a very interesting point that you also limited your downside, I would say, with this initial few months where you could just basically cover the costs and then you could keep the upside if you have any. And I think this is what some other great entrepreneurs also do or did. Like I think there's the famous story of Richard Branson, how when he started Virgin, the airline, that he, I think, negotiated some really nice terms and kind of just had almost no downside and only an upside. And so that is really a good concept to keep in mind. Yeah,
because I think there is a lack of people that want to push things forward, that want to start their own business, and there is enough money and also enough risk capital, I would say. So if you are really willing to push things forward, I think there are many people that give you a chance, because most of them are over 50. They made their career, so they want to support you. They want to see you succeed. So that's something I really see in Switzerland, that there is so much potential if you start something by yourself, that you will get a lot of support. And for sure, we need to work on our culture of failure, but it's going. So it's not a bad atmosphere at the moment to start a company.
And Maybe a weird question, but what you mentioned before, you have a note-taking app. What app do you use? Just out of
just a standard Apple iOS app. Okay. So I tried several services but in the end, it's for me, the easier it is, the better. So this is why I just use the standard apps.
And do you have any other tools or programs that you used to start the business or that you found helpful, or like books or other resources?
So one book I like was Getting Things Done. So it helped me to organize myself, to even if you have several things like me, I run an equity fund with almost $1 billion asset under management. I have the party with 4,000 members and I have a startup, so it's kind of really a lot to do. But knowing how to organize can keep you calm and without stress. So I think this book, Getting Things Done, I don't remember the author, but this helped me a lot. Not in the startup. I think the startup we just tried, and there was no book we followed. And now we have to follow a business plan, or we have to follow the structure of a business plan to get some money because we want to expand.
Yeah. And are you planning to grow still with the Poké Bowls, or you have also other plans maybe to offer different type of food as well? Or is
No, it's really the Poké Bowl. We've been successful now for 2.5 years just with this concept over lunch, and we have delivery service for lunch and dinner as well. But we are not open at night because most of the stores we are in are either closed at night, so a coffee store or an e-bike store, they are closed, or they are used for different like bars or so. They are just selling alcohol and no Poké Bowls anymore. So we really focus on the lunchtime. We had an offer for another store in Zurich for coffee in the morning and after work, and we were really close to sign the deal. But then we realized we need to put so much effort to these new concepts, which we could not put in the expansion of the successful Poké Bowl lunch concept. So that's why we denied and want to focus now really on what worked the last 2 years. And it's not the Swiss way that we want to take on more risk now, but I think in the end, if you really want to build a big chain, there is at some point you have to take the risk and also get some money from family, friends, or smart money from investors to grow fast. There is probably only 1 or 2 companies that can succeed with Poké Bowls in Switzerland. So the chances are not bad that we are one of them, but now we need to invest.
Yeah, I think it's true. You have to think about competition at one point as well and how you differentiate yourself. Yeah, but what I wanted to ask is, how did you think about marketing or making the people aware of this new concept once you launched it, going back a bit in time again?
Yeah, so first it was good that I was involved in politics, so the people knew me. So when a politician starts something new, there will for sure be a newspaper writing stories about. So, and all the founders were really good connected in Zurich. So we have all friends. We are born and raised here. So it's kind of the organic reach we already had was quite good. And yeah, to add on, we just printed some flyers and distributed them around the pop-up store because there were many businesses, many banks. And I mean, after the second day, we were profitable from an operative perspective because you don't need that many clients if you have not a lot of initial investments, right? That's the beauty of our concept, the shop in shop. We don't need to invest 100K for each store. So that's why we are profitable really early. Like when we go to new cities now, according to our plan, it needs 4 months and we are break even with all the investments. And for a restaurant, that's not a normal case, right? So this mouth to mouth and flyers is really successful. For sure, we started those with Instagram quite early, but then we had some collaborations with so-called influencers for the delivery we offer from our own homepage, and we gave some coupons to them. And to be honest, there were not many orders by the influencers. So I think it's good from a brand awareness perspective, but to really get the client in your store, you need to get all the people around your store to know that you're there. So, and you do this by flyering or emailing or calling the people. So, right, really the classic way of marketing.
Yeah, I think that's some good points. Also with the influencer marketing, yeah, I heard some mixed things as well from other people. So.
Yeah, I mean, nothing bad to say about influencers. If they can live with what they do, it's my respect, really. But I think as a company, as a young company, as a startup, it's not something you should just focus on this. So there is the classic ways. Distribution channels are even more important when you're a young startup, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to another point you mentioned before, your different commitments in politics with the startup and your position as an equity fund manager. How do you balance your, let's say, time and energy? I think a lot of startup founders or people that first want to start something on the side and still have a normal day job might struggle with this. So I'm curious how you see that and how you deal with this challenge of balancing so many balls at once.
I think it's like an ongoing learning process. It's not that I have the golden rule now that I will keep forever, but I have like three main things I follow when there is a lot of action happening. So the first is I sleep enough, at least 7 hours. At the moment, 7.5 hours on average. So that's a rule I have to follow if I have so many things to do. The second one is I don't drink alcohol during the weekdays, only on weekends. And the third one is I work out 4 times on weekdays, 4 out of 5 times. So if I follow those 3 pillars, with the other, I would say 16, 17 hours a day, I can be really productive. So this is kind of the ground. If I have this, I invest a lot in the people I'm working with. So in the party, when I became president 3.5 years ago, we had just an intern for like 50%. Now we have 300% FTE, and one is full-time there since 3 years. And also with the startup, we hired some really great people. So this is key. I would say there are so many great people out there looking for adventure. And if you can approach them, it's not the thing about giving them a lot of salary. It's really giving them some proper content for their daily job. And if they have it, they will succeed and the money will come. So I would say first you have to start with yourself to get the balance. And those are the 3 pillars I mentioned. Yeah. And then you really need to invest in talents and people. And if you have this balance, it's working.
What type of sports do you do?
Just working out in the morning. Okay. Actually. There is like not many things you can do at 6 a.m. in the morning, and gym opens at 6. So I'm there on time and just work out an hour. But it's not that I want to like. It's just more for the physical balance. It's not that I have some goals on this side.
Yeah. And also to add on to the point of sleep, I think this is a very important point that also I think gained more attention in the last year or two, because there was also quite a lot of research done and published. And I think there's a book called Why We Sleep, and I think it also changed a lot of minds of people that were before, like imagine. You have to, minimize sleep and otherwise work like 18, 19 hours or something. But I think it's really the research shows how important sleep is.
And the more you do, the more sleep you need, right? Mm-hmm. I like 3 years ago, I had the experience where I lost some hair, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, what the hell, you're 22 and you're losing your hair because of stress. Like I was Googling this kind of hair loss. What's the reason? Then it's stress. Mm-hmm. So I was just sleeping 5 or 6 hours, going to the gym every morning because I wanted to succeed there as well. But then I told myself, well, you cannot be everywhere on top. So just sleep enough and try to work out as as many as possible you can. So yeah, it changed. That's why I said it's a process of learning. I would say in 5 years later, I have some other pillars probably added on to my formula to have a balanced life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to also switch to another point you mentioned, So we talked about entrepreneurship, and now the whole politics part. I read that you're now also engaging in an initiative to foster entrepreneurship in Switzerland and to make it more attractive as a place to start a company. Yeah, could you give the audience a quick overview of what you're doing and why you think it's important?
Yeah, thank you. It's a really important initiative we started, so I'm happy to speak about this one. It's called TeamStartup. It's launched by Judith Belesch from the Green Liberal Party and by myself from the Freedom Democratic Party. I didn't mention it so far, but it's not about the parties. It's more about the topic. So we came together to say we need to get the startups more engaged, because when you talk to them, they always complain about the hurdles they are tackling at the moment, not just when it comes to business growth, also when it comes to regulatory framework. And we want to give them a platform where they can speak out what they need. So no one can say, I don't know to whom I have to reach out to change the regulatory framework. So we offer a platform. It's also kind of gamification, because we say the three best ideas gets on a public poll, and the idea with the most votes will get into parliament in December when we get elected to the national parliament. And if we are not getting elected, we make sure that this idea will come for sure in the parliament with a motion to make it happen, right? So it's not just another WordPress site where you can say what's important or not, and then it's on the website but no one cares about. It's really, we promise that we take on these ideas to the parliament and make things happen. I think it's really important as a politician to listen to the people. None of us knows everything, and the more we know, the better we know that we don't know a lot, actually. So that's why we thought let's ask the founders and the investors what kind of changes they need, because Switzerland is it's a really nice country, and I'm so happy that I grew up here and I have all the opportunities that Switzerland offers. But still, if we just think let's keep it like this, I think in some years we will not be top one in all this innovation index. I mean, you can start with the ease of doing business index. We are on rank 38. So it's easier to do business in Azerbaijan and in Switzerland.
Wow.
So saying that, no one can say it's not a potential here to improve the framework for startups.
Where do you see some other challenges maybe that Switzerland lags a bit behind other countries? I think you also mentioned the mentality of taking risk or failure in Switzerland as one. Are there any other areas that you see, in your own opinion, that we could improve?
Regarding startups?
Starting a startup or entrepreneurship in general.
I think it's hard as such a successful country with so many successful global corporates to get young people starting their own thing. I see it for myself. I had now 10 years good salary from a bank, and now in January I will have like 30% of the salary I had before, and I can just do this because I don't have kids and bigger responsibilities. So I think we need to educate more what it means to have a startup, what great opportunities you have when you start your own company, because most of the people growing up in Switzerland, they have parents in big corporations. They are taught to have like a safe job, to have children and just like settle down. So I think if we try to shift this focus to do what you think is great, and if you have great ideas and you cannot implement this in the company you're working for, start your own company and know all the opportunities. And I think one of the best things you have starting your own business is you get so much more, and also really interesting interactions with people you would never meet before. And through those interactions, new ideas came up, and in the end you land somewhere where you didn't start. But if you don't do this, you start, I don't know, as a cashier in a bank, and in 10 years later you're head of the cashier service. So it's like similar what you did before, and I think this this whole adventure world you're entering when you start your business is something exciting. So if we talk more about it, perhaps the young generation will start more and more doing the things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So education and also making people aware a bit earlier would definitely help as well. I think from my own experience, I think I was just not very aware of it as let's say teenager. Back then it was not really talked about that much about starting a company or startup. Everyone was like, okay, I'm going to study, then I go to consulting or to a bank or something. And it's just like over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I think that maybe the general mindset changed a bit, or my own.
Sure. But I think there's not only the responsibility from the founders, there's also one from the investors. We have like 900 billion asset under management for pension funds, and a lot of this money is invested in bonds where they get negative yield. And they, like most of them, just follow passive benchmarks. They say we invest, I don't know, X% in MSCI World, X% in bond index, and then we are fine. So I think more and more they have to think about what is happening with this money. Also climate-wise, we have a huge climate debate all around the world. But also when it comes to, can we perhaps give more money to venture funds or direct invest in startups? Because there is where the wealth is created for the future. And I think it's also a responsibility of all the asset holders or rich families, pension funds, governments, to think more about what they do with their money. Because I think there was a trend of just following the cheapest investments. So indexing was a big trend still, because active managers were costing a lot, not performing well in the public opinion. So we shift all the money to index investment. But if you passive your investments, also your responsibility has gone away. And I think having money gives you more and more responsibility. So this also we can improve this as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully agree with you there. I think there is still a lack of really good institutional money in Switzerland to support these startups from an investment perspective. And yeah, I don't know how exactly the split looks like, but I feel like, there is not that much invested from the big asset managers and pension funds, etc. in venture. I think there's very little.
There's a huge potential.
Yeah.
There's a huge potential.
So I hope also there will be more of a rise of more targeted VC funds or accelerators that support the growth here in Switzerland. We talked about the challenges, and I also wanted to ask you, from your learnings now from starting your own startup, what did you learn and what would you tell yourself now before you started, like some key learnings for let's say a new entrepreneur? If you can generalize it, if it's possible.
So we didn't fail big so far, so there's not like a big learning I can talk about, but I would say you always have to know your exit, your personal exit. You always have to have several opportunities or create yourself some opportunities. This is the first thing when you start a company with different people. You need to have a plan for yourself as well, because so as far as it's running well, there's not an issue. But if it's not running well anymore, you need to have your own opportunities, what you do next. So this is something I learned so far. And on the other hand, really just, if you don't need a lot of money, if it's not like a tech company where you need to invest millions before you can really start, just start with the idea and just try to have like a pop-up if it's a store or a beta version to start with. So this helped us so much, and we did so many things wrong, but it didn't cost a lot. So this is something I would tell to my own self, like 3 years back, really do this again like this. So I think we had many failures, but because they didn't cost a lot, I cannot remember all of them anymore.
Yeah, I think that it's a good point. And also, if you can get any leads early, like maybe with a landing page or like some signs that you actually have, there's a need in the market and that you will be successful once you really start a business, I think can help you already establishing or like making sure that the idea could work.
Yeah, and also be patient. I think, I mean, if you have an idea and it's important that to launch it now and not in a week, then it's probably not the best idea, because you're gonna be they're gonna be the global market leader anyway coming and taking the market. I mean, you see now with Uber Eats, we are working with Uber Eats and also with Eat.ch, and you see now with Uber Eats entering the Zurich markets, we have more volume than with other distributors. We are working for several months now. It's kind of, when there is a global leader coming and getting the market, you will get the market. So if your idea is good enough, it's not, I mean, you have to have speed. But when you start, better think about how it should really look like. And if you know, okay, I have now the product that's with a USP and everything, then you can have some more speed. But when you start, take your month or two to really know what you really want to have.
Great. Yeah, I think for the last 10 minutes or so of the interview, I would like to switch over to the more personal questions to also get to know you a bit better. So I always like to ask my guests what book recommendation or any type of knowledge resource that you would recommend to me or the audience. Let's say if I board 10-hour flight now to the US or something, what would be a good book to read or something to entertain myself?
So I'm not sure if it's a lot of entertainment, but Skin in the Game from Nassim Taleb is a great one. He wrote the book Black Swan as well. So I read Black Swan because I'm a banker, and I think you need to know about the black swans around the world. I mean, you cannot know them, but how they can, or what the impact is if there's a black swan, probabilities and risk management. And after Black Swan, I read Skin in the Game, and it's even better because it's more about philosophy and like how people act different if they really have skin in the game. So like being invested or having their name as a company name. I mean, founders 50 years ago, they put their name, like Schindler, the elevator company, he puts his name, and this is really skin in the game. So if something goes wrong, it's his family name that is in the press, right? So the value of also talking and working with people who have skin in the game and are not just selling cars, like this type of people, helped me a lot. And another book was Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. So it helped me to get out of my bubble and out of the comfort zone when I, like, theoretically in my head, because being a man, 25, white, born in Zurich, it's kind of, you have many privileges. And then you start reading about other types of people in the world or other gender, what challenges they face. So this helped me a lot. And it was also by coincidence that I read this book. I was on vacation with my girlfriend and she finished the book and I finished mine as well. So we changed the books and I started reading Lean In. And the third one I'm reading at the moment is The Constitution of Liberty of Friedrich August von Hayek. It's more about, it's also really philosophic, the value of liberty for a society, for a person. And this is really important, I think, to have also moral understanding or like not just jump from opportunity to opportunity, but also have like a moral ground and a focus. And I mean, this book was written, I don't know, 50 years ago or something like this. But when you read it, it gives you something for your life. Mm-hmm. That's what I like when I talk to people, where I see they know, or they have values and they know where they want to go. And it's not just they are looking for the hotspots and then they go to crypto and then they just go for opportunities. Mm-hmm. You can go for crypto when you're convinced, but not just because you heard there is some money to create. So I like this book very much, and it gives you, as being a politician, it's also good to have like proper ground of your what you say in the public, right? Not just say what people want to hear, but also being convinced of what you say.
Thanks. I think there's some good recommendations there. Also from Taleb, I think Fooled by Randomness is a great book.
I didn't read it, but
I didn't read the other two, but I read Fooled by Randomness, but the other ones are on my list.
Good.
And that's also a really good one. My next question would be your best investment that you made so far. It does not necessarily need to be an investment of money. It can also be an investment of time, of energy, but that had like a good impact or the best impact for you.
So I would say quit the school and go to or start an apprenticeship was for me really key. When I was in school with 15, I smoked weed. I wasn't really good. I was bored and I think I had a lot of potential back then and I wasn't using it. And going to the, working for a bank 3 days a week with 15 and being the cashier and like, it was really kind of working. It was not just going to school. So this was, I would say, one of the most important investments when I look back 10 years ago now, because all I have now is just started with the apprenticeship in the bank. And now I'm not an apprentice anymore. So I would say my best investment at the moment is having time with people I really care about, with people who wants to help me. So say mentor or advisor. So I spend a lot of time to talk to people and discuss opportunities and plans and exit options and like everything I was saying the last, 20, 30 minutes is based on really deep discussions with many people, for sure with my own convictions, but also I think it's okay to also listen to others.
Yeah, the apprenticeship is definitely something that can give you some advantages. Yeah, that I think now you have already so many years of work experience that maybe other people don't have. So yeah, I can definitely see the advantage of that. Another question is if you have any specific hobby or thing that you use to decompress and like when next to all your engagements in politics, entrepreneurship, managing the fund, is there anything that you do to kind of relax or that you like to do in your free time? Or is it hard to find the time?
I would say my life is my hobby. So I try to get energy of what I do and don't need to invest energy in what I do. So saying that, I'm running for national parliament at the moment. Like last weekend, I had 6 different things going on. So I had to go from this event to the other one, and people were like, you're crazy and it must absorb so much energy. And then I said, no, it's cool. I meet new people. I can talk to many people and this gives me energy. So actually there's not like a hobby, I would say for sure doing, working out in the morning, having some friends with whom I don't have to talk about politics or entrepreneurship all the time. For sure it's important, but it's just having these friends and doing sport would not be enough to satisfy myself. So I need also the other part. So that's why I think really holistically in this kind of sense to try to have a good life with everything what I'm doing. For sure, in the last 10 years, not everything what I did in the bank or what I did during my studies or what I did in politics was for fun. And there are still many tasks also at the moment that are not really just for fun, but it's the package you get.
Yeah. A question that I should have asked before, but you said you had mentors and there is this concept of like a personal advisory board. And let's say if you were a company, who would you have on your advisory board? And it does not need to be someone who you know. It can be anyone. It's like alive or that you don't know personally, but someone who you would like to have as an advisor. Anyone comes to mind?
So you want to have a specific name?
Or it can be a few names.
It's really hard because also I get questioned a lot, who is your role model? And then also I don't want to follow just one person, right? Yeah. I think with this advisory board, it's a better question because you have several people impacting your thoughts, and in the end you can make out what you think is best, right?
You can mention 3-4 names, but if you don't want,
I mean, I can describe them.
Yeah, sure.
I would say I would definitely need someone, and I don't have this at the moment, who is like 10 years younger, like teenager, to know what they care about. I mean, with 25, I already feel kind of old. It sounds stupid, but when I see how the teenagers use all the new gadgets, it's kind of a different life and a different generation. So I would definitely need someone who is younger than me in my personal advisory board. I need diversity in there to get me challenged. Like also my team, and for the national campaign, there are more women than men, and it's kind of I have really different people in there. That's what I like. But I also want to have successful entrepreneurs who are not like really busy on a daily basis and have to care about so many things and then give me an advice. So it's more for them, as I said before, they are over 50, they did their things, and now they want to give back. So it's kind of, for me, it should be a really a diverse group of people. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, Swiss-based, because as being a politician, you commit yourself to the city you live in, to the country you live in. So probably it's not good to have too much international influence, because then I want to go to San Francisco or Hong Kong to work, right? Yeah. So it's better to keep it now in the Swiss mountains, let's say.
Cool. Yeah, great. And if you had let's say a gigantic billboard that you could put a message on for Switzerland or for the world, let's say 1 or 2 sentences, what would you put on it?
I would put on 3 words. One is respect, the second one is create, and the third one is enjoy. So, I mean, respect starts, I would say, with everything. If you don't respect the other people you're around with, other opinions, that's what I see in politics, right? That I think Switzerland is a good example how you can do it as a society, not to go against each other, but to go with each other. I was in the US in January for 5 weeks with other politicians from Europe, and when you talk to the people there, they just hate each other if they don't follow the same opinions. So it's all about respect. Also respect your competitor, respect people who were not successful and those who were really successful. So it starts everything with respect, I would say. Then create. I think this gives you a unique heritage when you create something. It can be an NGO, it can be a startup, it can be a new feature in your company, it can be a family, it can be friendship through lifetime. So in the end, there is this idea of museum, of like your life. If your life would be a museum, what should be in there? Mm-hmm. So you have to create something. Yeah, this is, I think, what leaves, because we are all pop-ups. We are all temporary on this planet. So there is a point where we close down. And if you didn't create anything at all, your heritage is not so big. I mean, you can say I don't care about it, but I care. So I would say that's the second word. And the third one is enjoy. As I mentioned, we are only temporarily. Mm-hmm. So not every day should be like a lot of fun, but on average, enjoy what you do. And if you are not able to create a lot because you're suffering different challenges, it's still try to get the best out of it. I know that not everyone is that privileged to create and be respected and enjoy everything. So if you cannot do all these 3 things, start with the respect and then try to get the most out of it. And if you have enough energy and opportunities, start creating.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think these were some good closing words. Nevertheless, I always have my typical last question, which is about the theme of the podcast, which is like risk taking. And that's why it's called the Leap Takers podcast. So my question is, what does courage mean to you?
It means, for me, it means taking responsibility, go into positions where you have to prove leadership, So I've been now president of the party for 4 years. Before that, I was 3 years president of the cantonal chapters and 1 year before of the local chapter. So for 8 years now, I'm the president, and this is taking risk because in politics, every day you have new inputs, news, people against you, and you're always exposed. If you really have these positions and leadership, you have risk, you have skin in the game, you have your face on the TV screen, and what you say is heard by thousands of people. So what I think is courage is taking on this leadership and not just talking about others, talking what I or the others should and can do, but go into this position to take on the responsibility and the leadership, what you want to change. This is courage for me.
So I think with that, that's a good closing point. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Andri. And
thank you so much. I enjoyed.
Yeah, it was fun. And where can people find more about you and your work if they want to follow you or support you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I have a homepage. You can write me an email. You can call me, write me a WhatsApp. So just go on my homepage. You will find all the contact details there. I'm not active on Snapchat anymore. I started a TikTok profile just to understand what it is, but I'm also not that active there, but you will find me.
Great. I will also make sure to link that in the show notes of the podcast with all the links. So yeah, have a look there. Good. Then thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. You could do me a really big favor if you quickly head over to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and give the Leap Takers podcast a 5-star rating. This would really help me to get more visible and that I'll be able to continuously bring on great guests to this show. So thank you very much. In addition, I'm also happy about any type of feedback that you might have or ideas for future guests and the questions you would like me to ask them. So if you have any ideas, just shoot me a message. You can find all my podcast episodes as well as my contact details on leaptakers.com, or you can also just follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where you should be able to find me under Remo Keyboards. So yeah, next to the podcast, I also started writing some blog posts on the Leap Takers website. So there I write about various topics, be it about investing, entrepreneurship, traveling, or just some new cool products that I tried. It's all there. So check it out if you like. Having said that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Stay curious, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye-bye.